Good morning, boys, and welcome for the 11.05 update on a tier list. I know you guys been waiting for a long time, and I'm already recording this for the third time because they keep on changing shit. So welcome, and let me introduce you to what I believe will be the next upcoming tier list update after all the major changes done to the classes and specs for the past couple of weeks. Now, disclaimer, if you haven't already seen the changes to all classes, you can check out the previous video I just did, pretty much giving a TLDR of what has changed on each class, etc. Today I'm gonna give it, brief kind of like description and rank them against each other. This tier list will also include tanks, healers, and DPS. So if you're here only for the DPS, you'll be disappointed. Tanks and healers included. Alright, without further ado, let's begin. First thing first, we have 5 categories. Top tier, which I believe are the meta specs. Best candidates, which are the next in line after the top tier, which is pretty much like a A+ / bottom S tier. Impressive is gonna be around A tier-ish, give or take, perhaps B+. Uncertain, likely good. There's only one spec here that I needed more time to test. Although I'm pretty sure that it belongs to the top of the good tier, but I just put it out there in case in case I have to get back and fix it. And last but not least, good tier, which I believe are the specs that are currently the most, unlikely to get picked up, or just in general to perform as well as the rest of the specs. All right, starting from the bottom, let's begin first with tanks and healers. Okay, on the bottom we have Holy Priest. Holy Priest honestly did not get any changes leading to the patch 11.05. Unfortunately for Holy Priest, I believe they are still going to remain the bottom healers of the season 1. The output itself is great. I mean, I do believe that their HPS and DPS profile is definitely not bad. The mob control is horrible, likely the worst mob control so far. Outside of like your Psychic Cream, I guess Chastise could be a single target stop, but the mob control is just pretty weak. No interrupt as well, and most of the healers, if not every healer right now, do things better than you. I guess the HPS department is the only department where you can actually, be as competitive. I guess the only healer that could be close to your performance would be like a Restoration Druid. But then again, you're comparing Mark of the Wild against stamina buffing. I feel like Mark can just really, speed up your team compared to like just stun buff, which I believe is kind of a more defensive buff. Overall, I still think you're going to be a good choice if you want to play it. One of the easiest healers to entry with. And, if there were any buffs here, I would probably put them higher. But for now, good is good enough for them. On behalf of tanks, I believe that's the only healer right now here. On behalf of tanks, I would say the bottom tier currently are as follows. Brewmaster goes first, which means like the bottom of the bottom tanks. Honestly, Brew didn't get a lot of changes for 11.05. Which is most definitely disappointing. I think Brewmaster still struggles defensively. I believe you are the squishiest tank so far in Mythic Plus, although your damage profile is great. Good mob control as well, and most definitely your damage does not suffer, at all. You need a lot of attention. Unfortunately, your healers have to heal you, spam heal you, and just babysit you across the whole key, which leaves them little to no room for their damage contribution, which is kind of sad. Enough to be said here. I expected more things on behalf of their durability. They didn't get any major things, so I believe they will be right now one of the bottom tiers. Following next, Vengeance DH, yet another disappointing. Although they started the expansion pretty well, unfortunately for them, I believe they are the only spec that they haven't seen any changes for 11.05. Some quality of life changes with meta, etc. But other than this, plain simple nothing. Currently, seems like some of the casters are gonna be well, but majority of the top tier specs are considered melee. So Chaos Brand is not as lucrative as it used to be, for example, back in the seasons. Also, it got nerfed. Your damage profile is fine. Mob control is one of the best, if not the best so far across all tanks. But once again, just like Brewmaster, I feel like you are most definitely squishy. On a larger pulse, your health is just pretty much playing tango, which is something you don't want to have for a tank. If they were to get buffed defensively, I would just consider them much higher, but for now, I think good enough for them is fine. Alright, let's begin with the DPS now. following, in my opinion, the last DPS, which is kind of disappointing because it's one of my favorite specs to, you know, to see or play with. Although I know it's funny, it's Resto Druid. Resto Druid, one of the most underrepresented specs right now, and plus, they did not get any changes for the following 11.05 patch. Well, okay, they got very little changes compared, for example, like its sibling spec Balance Druid that got like, I believe, Balance got 3 pages of changes, Fury got just like 2 sentences. Make it do. Overall, I believe the damage output is mediocre, which is the prime reason why you are in a good tier. But if they were to get buffed, I believe you have everything you need to get higher, because utility is similar to Balance Druid, except for the AoE silence, and durability, I believe, much better than Balance Druid. If they were to get buffed, you will be climbing the tier list like no tomorrow. For now, I think good enough is fine. Next in line, yet another disappointment, Havoc DH. I know a lot of you guys love Havoc DH, but I believe Havoc DH currently is one of the worst DPS specs in Mythic Plus, although your damage profile with cooldowns will remain great. Off cooldowns is just completely bottom, like literally tank damage, which is disappointing. On top of this, they didn't get really any changes for 11.05, or rather minimalistic changes, so that's another reason why I believe they are going to be currently one of the bottom DPS specs in 11.05. If they were to get buffed, once again, they'll climb higher because, you know, they're well defensively. Well, not the best, but not bad either. Good self-sustain because of their leech, and most importantly, have a choice to go for an immunity, Net Evoke. I wish I'll see them higher, but it is what it is for now. Alright, next in line, yet another spec that got ignored. Monks. Windwalker Monk got completely ignored for the upcoming 11.05 patch, which I believe they need to buff their spinning crane kick for their signature AoE to be much higher. Previously, as you guys already know, Windwalker has one of the strongest AoE profiles. No more. I believe your single target now is in a much better state than it is than your AoE is, which is kind of funny because always Monk has been like great in AoE and kind of meh in single target. Right now you are great in single target and meh in AoE. Like during cooldowns, obviously just like any spec, you're gonna be fine. But the moment you have no cooldowns, especially for AoE, and it's like larger pools, I'm sorry to say, boys, but you are looking at one of the worst DPSs so far, in my opinion. Moving next, Outlaw Rogue. Outlaw Rogue, unfortunately, well, I guess fortunately did get some changes, but I don't think those changes that it got will be enough to push the spec much higher than, you know, I guess the top of the good tier. Still capped DPS gaming, which is kind of sad. I guess if you do pull large, you will be behind quite a lot. If you do play smaller size pools, like for example, if you're playing like Myths or even Stonevolt, I believe you're gonna be fine because you'll be, you know, you can manage to do great damage. You don't have a burst, but you do have what I believe is great sustained damage. And again, just like in Rogue spec, durability is insane, and so is the mob control. If they were to get uncapped or for the buffed, I think you're gonna be placed higher. But for now, the top of the good tier for me is good enough. And there's 2 more options here for the good tier. Next in line is gonna be Arms Warrior. Arms Warrior did get barely any changes as well for 11.05. In fact, some nerfs, some buffs, which I think will most likely result in a positive performance of Arms Warrior. Again, one of the specs that I believe was heavily ignored. I wish they were getting more changes. Unfortunately, there's nothing much that I could report on. Barely any changes. There's been some hero talent adjustments, but again, they will still remain great in terms of AoE damage profile. Good consistent damage, which is actually a good thing to see. Single target is not too shabby too. I would say you are probably much better pick in rating than you are in Mythic Plus, which I believe that has been Fury all the way since the start of the season, even since beta, so I would assume that will be the case as well for the second half of Mythic Plus in Season 1. Fury will be better than Arms. All in all, I expected more changes on behalf of the damage, especially in AoE, and what I expected the most was durability changes, to see them getting buffed a little bit there, make them more tanky. Well, I guess I'll have to wait more. Last but not least is Death Evoker. Death Evoker pretty much got ignored in the 11.05. Same old. I believe you are going to be fantastic choice for rating. Not so great for M+. Sustained damage, in my opinion, a little bit lower than what I expected to be. Burst damage is fine, just like any other class. I think you're going to do fantastic. Your single target is great, your cleave can be problematic if the mobs are spread apart, but other than this, I think you're going to be remaining a solid choice across lower level keys to mid level keys, where you're probably going to suffer on high level keys because of your sustained damage being low compared to the most of the specs in Mythic Plus. I wish I could say anything more than that. Unfortunately, although they have good utility and they're quite durable, they didn't really get much for 11.05 patch. Alright, now for the unicorn that I believe is currently for me uncertain, but I believe it's gonna likely end up being on the top of the good tier, and that's gonna be BM Hunter. BM Hunter was actually the bottom spec for like the past, I believe, 3 months since the end of the since like mid beta until like right now, second half of season 1. BM has been a disappointment. Well, fortunately for them, after the most recent rework, or I guess changes, BM now is going to be in a much better position. Now, is that going to be enough to bring BM on the higher rankings? I believe yes, it will definitely climb some rankings, but I still believe you're going to be a much better choice for raiding, where your single target will be still competitive enough to be ranked among the top DPSs. But for Mythic Plus, I do think you need a little bit more love for the AoE, especially off cooldowns, where I believe your ramp up kind of damage playstyle just needs a bit of love to be ranked higher. For now, I think you deserve to be around the good top tier of the good bracket, but if there's anything changes, I'll let you guys know. Currently PTR was down for the past 3 days, so I couldn't really, give it a whip the way I wanted to give it a whip. All right, moving to impressive, which I think is going to be around B tier-ish, give or take, maybe B+. Begin with tanking. Blood DK. Blood DK didn't really get a lot of changes. In fact, I believe they got none, except for some hero talent changes, like Saladin, for example, Deathbringer, which Deathbringer is gonna probably end up being a net buff for the damage department of Blood DK. I think you're one of the most rounded specs currently in Mythic Plus, which allows you to pretty much play with any comp, like ranged, melee, hybrid comps. And it's also incredible for like pugging because of your self-sustain. You honestly don't rely that much into the healer, having to actively single target heal you, but you're pretty self-sufficient in that regard. Utility, once again, unfortunately, you don't have any meaningful buffs to provide for your party, but your mob control will remain solid. A-bomb, limp, double grip, asphyxiation if you want to, biting sleet if you have to spend AoE stops. Overall, I do expect them to be fantastic choice for like majority of the puck keys, but still to struggle finding invites on high level keys. Moving to the healers, bottom of the impressive tier, likely gonna be a Restoration Druid. The only reason why a Resto Druid is not placed in a good tier is because I value Mark of the Wild much higher than Stamina buff. But overall, I think healing output will be likely worse than Holy Priest, while damage profile could be more competitive compared to them. Durability, I believe you are tankier than Holy Priest, and last but not least, mob control is much better. You have a choice to go for Interrupt, you have an AoE stop too with Typhon as well and Vortex. You can, suit targets, for example, Stampeding Roar to move from pack to pack, and generally I do like utility more on the Resto Druid compared to Holy Priest. Hence why I think you are going to be on the bottom of impressive, which I think a bottom of bit tier for you is going to be a solid choice. They did get some changes for 11.05, which will slightly bring up their performance, but not good enough for me to be placing them anywhere higher. Following next is going to be Mistweaver. Mistweaver did get some nice quality of life changes, and they will be better in 11.05 patch, which I'm happy to say that. Mistweaver has been a fan favorite spec for a long time now. It seems like people enjoy the fantasy and most likely the visuals of the Mistweaver, and the most exciting changes: Crackling, Jade, Lighting back to the menu, especially on damage. People are excited to give it a try for 11.05 patch after the changes, so I believe its performance will also increase in that department. While HPS has never been an issue for them, DPS could be problematic if they spec in full healing, but all in all, I believe you are going to be a solid contender across all key levels. One small thing I would like to say here is our external damage abilities, like for example Cocoon, is still inferior compared to pretty much most of the hitter external abilities. Like for example Iron Bark is much better, Pain suppression much better. Paladin sack is just much better than your Cocoon. So I just expected that to be buffed a little bit in terms of either bigger absorb shield, or perhaps give them a DR after the absorb effect has been consumed. So either of this would be, you know, making more sense for me to see, you know, to rank them higher. And last but not least, Holy Paladino is now going to be ranked across the, in my opinion, the best impressive tier performance, simply because it got several changes, which I think will end up being better for the quality of life of Holy Paladins. Again, just not mistaken, I believe you are going to be the top of the impressive bracket, which pretty much means the top of B tier. Mob control of Holy Paladin is one of the best. Unfortunately, the output itself, especially HPS department, is not looking that solid, especially like off cooldowns, especially like I think you are getting beaten by monks and holy priests most likely. However, durability one of the best, mob control one of the best, utility one of the best, Mythic plus. If they were to get buffed defense, like if they were to get buffed either in the HPS department or for the damage increasement, then I would just rank them higher. With the current performance, I think where they are right now is a compliment for them. All right, let's talk about DPS right now, because that's what you guys are here for. First but not least, first but not last, Sub Rogue goes, in my opinion, on the bottom of the impressive tier. Honestly, Sub Rogue has gotten some changes. I would say mostly quality of life touches here and there. They're still going to remain a solid contender for a DPS choice in Mythic Plus, but once again, just like Outlaw Rogue, it has its struggles. I think the damage output is not high enough for me to place them higher, and you are going to be in the shadow of Assassination Rogue, which appears to be much better. Single target is not an issue. AoE sometimes could be an issue, depending on your cooldown usages, but in my opinion, much better than Outlaw AoE. One thing that I could find you struggling is low target count, like for example 3 to 4 targets. You might find problematic, but mostly just to say this is, I think given the fact that you're pretty tanky and you have good utility, you're still gonna get invites in Mythic Plus, and if they see you playing Sub Rogue, they might change their mind and kick you out because you don't play Assa, but I still think you're gonna be a solid choice. Destro Lock, ooh, one of the specs that I absolutely love for high keys, but I hate for mid-level keys or even low keys because of the ramp-up effect. Ramp-up effect pretty much means like until having several rains of fire, you are gonna be doomed to have no damage. Or if there's like any mobs that are like low HP, by the time you ramp up, they are most likely gonna be dead, which is again not really optimal in my opinion. Destro Lock unfortunately did not see many changes in the upcoming patch. I mean, they've seen some, I would say mostly tuning around Rain of Fire. Pretty much devs are wanting to press more Chaos Bolt instead of Rain of Fire, which I don't think is gonna happen, at least for like high count mobs, but it might change the rotation on like low count mobs. Overall, I think you are a solid contender. You have great AoE damage profile, decent single target, and most importantly, you are pretty tanky for range spec, which, you know, tankiness is in my opinion, great factor for you to rank specs in between each other. I expected for the buffs on Destro Lock. Unfortunately, we've seen none so far. Moving next, Survival Hunter has climbed their rankings a little bit following the most recent changes done to them. I believe Survival Hunter will end up being in a better state than they were at the start of the season, and most importantly will do, in my opinion, better damage across all content, whether it's going to be Mythic Plus in rating than in 1102. Survival Hunter also hold great burst and good sustained damage, which I think are going to be the main reasons why I rank them in an impressive tier. They also hold great single target. Their defensive got improved since the start of the expansion, and most importantly, they are, in my opinion, tankier than before. Okay, so all of this combined, they will probably put the Survival Hunters around the middle of the impressive tier. Moving forward, a huge disappointment, Fury Warrior. Fury Warriors honestly did not get, well, they did get some changes. Thunderous Roar got capped, Audience Fury also got capped. So if you guys remember the big burst that they were doing to like low level keys of Fury Warriors, where you just gather like 2-3 packs together, just Odin Fury Thunderous Roar, well, now they're capped. Cap gaming, unfortunately, will bring Fury Warrior a little bit down. Although the sustained damage will remain great, the burst will likely be a little bit lower depending on the amount of mobs you are pulling. Utility yet remains disappointment. I think you are the worst spec when it comes down to utility. Mob control is decent, but once again, if you don't have the best DPS, well, you quite frankly will always end up being either good or impressive, because you don't really, also the fact that Protection Warrior is in a much better state, there's no incentive for you to be brought to the party, because you already have Prot Warrior giving a, battle shout, and all of the utilities that you can do, they can do better, especially with like, spell reflex that could be meaningful in some of the dungeons. So I think if they were to get more buffed, I'll place them higher. For now, I would say middle of impressive tier is more accurate. A few more specs ranked in impressive tier. Let's moving forward. Demonology Lock, once again, I believe you're gonna be still in impressive tier. Not many changes done to them, hence why I think, although you are gonna stay impressive, you still needed a bit more damage for me to be placing this higher. I think since the start of the season, they have rapidly declined a little bit, and not because they got nerfed, but because other classes got buffed, which can be indirect nerf to your class. For example, if your class was like really good at the start of the season, but then every second class got buffed, then they will take your place and just go lower and lower and lower. I think that's the case for like Demolog. I don't think you're particularly bad. I think you're just like decent everywhere. Decent single target, decent AoE, decent burst damage too. Quite well durability wise, and I think your utility is great. So if they were to get more changes, I'll place them higher. For now, I think where they belong is fair. Moving forward, Hunter. Once again, Hunter got a lot of changes for the upcoming patch, and I think that's gonna end up being they're gonna end up being in a much better state than they were in level 02. Once again, mid to low level keys, they will be one of the best specs in my opinion, because of the consistent burst damage that they could do to each pack, which can pretty much nuke the pack away before even your teammates find a way to like DPS. Like for example, if you play like +8 and you play Hunter against like Arcane Mage, which would be arguably better, Hunter will likely gonna clap the fuck out of the Arcane Mage, or Shadow Priest, or Frost Mage, or Fire Mage, because of your strong front load burst damage. Single target while having M+ talents is still problematic. Unfortunately, it has gone a little bit better, but it's still going to be a problematic area, which I believe that they wanted to focus and fix. Unfortunately, ain't happening today. Hopefully there will be further changes coming into the patch. For now, I think on the top of the A tier is a fair placement. Moving forward, Shadow Priest. Shadow Priest practically got 0 changes for 1105. Well, they got some nice quality of life stuff. For example, being able to hold your I was about to say meta. You're able to hold your Void form for like up to several seconds in between packs if you play Arcane, which can be nice if you play like low to mid level keys where you don't really utilize your whole burst. Again, I think you're gonna be much better for high level keys where the mobs live longer, so you can just do your whole rotation. Nice prior damage when doing AoE, decent single target, and most importantly, I believe great utility because of your off healing, stamina buff, PI, all this together can be decent. Again, mob control very weak, your interrupt cooldown is very long, and your mob control is just like Disc Priest and Holy Priest, quite shit. But on and all, I think you are gonna be in the same position as you were in 1102. So not a lot of things changes for Shadow Priest. Although I expected them to get buffed for like at least some single target, because currently they are quite mediocre in rating. Last but not least, this spec that belongs to the top of the impressive tier is gonna be Aff Lock. I know some of you will be like, oh shit, Aff Lock this and this. I think Aff Lock Although they entered 1102 quite good, they pretty much got 0 changes so far for 1105. Again, I don't think they struggle in AoE. I don't think they lack prior damage when they're doing AoE. I don't think they are particularly great on single target, but they're not bad either. You didn't get any changes, and I still think you're gonna remain a solid choice. But a lot of other range specs are just better than you. Like all the Mage specs better than you. Boomie is better than you. Ele is better than you. Aug is better than you. So if you want them to be picked up instead of you, then you have to have something better, right? You also don't have a party buff. Well, you do have a Soulstone and Hailstones, but I don't consider Hailstones like a particular party buff. Although I think that's gonna be quite helpful for, like, you know, keys where tanks can struggle to live, right? Overall, I expect them to be fine if they were given a chance to be invited on a high level keys, which is the main problem. Being able to be given a chance. Both Affliction and Shadow Priest will likely get destroyed in overall if, for example, you play low level keys compared to, like, let's say you're playing against the Death Evoker, Arms Warrior. For low level keys, you are going to be pretty much destroyed. But I guess if you're playing like average or above average keys, you're going to ramp up better. So I think you're going to end up being better. All right, boys, that's pretty much for the impressive tier. Now for the most interesting part, best candidates. Starting with tanks. I know a lot of you guys have seen already, but you were wondering, where is Protection Paladin? Because Protection Paladin has been shit for quite a long time. You know, they've been in a good performance for like the past 3.5 months, even 4 months. Well, luckily for you, Protection Paladin has seen quite a lot of changes and rather buffs, which I believe they're going to be brought to one of the best tanks in the upcoming Season 1. I was about to say Delve 2. No, Season 1, Part 2, pretty much second part of Season 1. Why is that? They've got now better durability. Their damage profile has never suffered, but again, they have, in my opinion, one of the best burst damage profiles across all tanks. Utility, one of the best. They have an immunity as well. They can help with off healing too if needed. I think pretty much this is the 5th buff in a row for Prot Paladin, so naturally they're gonna end up being in the best candidates. Currently, I believe you are either top 2 or top 3 tank, depending on the key levels you are playing. All in all, pretty much equivalent to Guardian Druid. Guardian Druid, I think, although it didn't get a lot of changes, in fact, pretty much, I mean, nothing meaningful, they're still going to remain a solid choice for the upcoming tier. You're quite tanky, you do great damage, have Mark of the Wild and a CR. What else do you need? Mark of the Wild is, in my opinion, much more valuable than Death Aura from Protection Paladin, because again, 3% versatility gives the whole team 3% more damage and 1.5% DR, while Prot Paladin Aura just gives a DR, which is kind of, I mean, still fine, but it's just not as strong as, for example, Mark of the Wild. You will struggle against heavy magical damage, or I guess continual heavy magical damage. You're still gonna struggle, but other than this, you are gonna still be fantastic choice for a tank in the upcoming Season 1 Part 2, or I guess second part of Season 1. Speaking about heals, now here's gonna be a surprise for you, okay? And this could be a completely cooked take, but I will say it anyway. I think Preservation Evoker and Disc Priest are going to be on the same tier. I know it's super wild, but let me tell you why. I think Disc Priest might have a small edge over P-Evoker. I think the Disc performance currently is hidden OP because of their incredible damage profile. I think if you count the PI in it, they are probably the best damage dealer across all healing specs right now. The HPS department has improved significantly after the buffs in 1102 with On the Atonement. Once again, even though you have the least impactful mob control, I think that the HPS and DPS department, like the raw output, will push you higher than most people think you're gonna end up being. Stamina buff, PI, Soothe, etc. The absorb shields, the double pain sub barrier, for example, will turn out to be quite useful in Mythic Plus, and I believe because of this, you will likely gonna end up being in the best candidates. Again, this could be completely cooked take though. P-Evoker coming second or third very closely. I guess it just really depends on like the group comp you're playing, because if you're playing, for example, triple melee and you don't have a Resto Shaman, you're trolling, because Resto Shaman gives a Sky Fury to the whole team, which pretty much means like Wind Fury, right? But if you do end up having, for example, let's say an enhanced Ele Shaman, then there's no incentive bringing Resto. Therefore, P-Evoker can have much more room to be picked up. Also, Augmentation Evoker, if it's viable in a comp, then I don't see it being double Evoker gaming, in my opinion. P-Evoker is one of the healers where I believe people are gonna struggle getting the most out of it, because it's really hard to play in pucks. Because you're always gonna end up having 3 melees, 2 ranges, heavy HPS fights coming in, your range standing behind you, melees in front, people scattered left and right. Like, the healing itself to get the most out of the spec is gonna be really hard with bugs. If you play with a full premade, it's much easier to manage. You'll never struggle in healing, and damage is also quite well. Hence why I think because of this, you're probably not gonna end up being the top healer. But again, best candidates is pretty much like A+/bottom S, which I think is still gonna be W for them. All right, moving forward. With the DPS, a Retribution Paladin, in my opinion, coming in last to the best candidates. Why is that? Retribution Paladin actually got nerfed. Plain and simple. They actually got nerfed, which I'm kind of surprised to see that, but yeah, small nerf for Mythic Plus. I believe something like a 3% single target nerf, 5% AoE nerf. Again, Napkin Mat here, last time I checked was around that. It could be less, it could be more, but I think roughly like those numbers. Again, a lot of people complain about Retribution Paladin having very strong AoE damage profile. Remember, Retribution Paladin is all about front load burst damage. They have 30 seconds minor cooldowns, 1 minute major cooldowns, hence why they have damage for every single pack. This is one of the best picks to play for like low level keys, and one of the best picks to play if you are a beginner player, because it's easy to play, very tanky, good burst damage, and now you're quite mobile because you have several horses. Because you got nerfed, I think you're gonna drop like 1 spot below. I think you were like few spots higher in 11 or 2. Now you're gonna drop 2 spots, but I still think you are gonna end up being in the best candidates. Moving forward, Unholy DK. Unholy DK, unfortunately, hasn't seen many changes for 11.05. I mean, there's been some Sound Lane buffs, which I don't know now if they're gonna play Sound Lane or Rider. I believe Rider will likely still be the go-to, but Unholy will never drop best candidates. I mean, unless they get severely nerfed, I don't see a reason for them to drop. They have great burst damage in AoE, a little bit less sustain than what I'd like them to have, and most importantly, their single target was never problematic. Mob control is great, just like Frost DK, but I think because of how strong Frost DK is, you're gonna probably end up living in their shadow for a long time. Unless you get for the buffs, I just don't see them being picked up above Frost DK. For now, because of your damage, I think best candidate is the right choice, but given the future nerfs, I will probably put them lower than that. For now, best candidates, simple as that. Alright, so a few more quick takes. Frost Mage coming in best candidates here. A lot of people ask me why is that. I think Frost Mage is still going to be a solid contender for this area. Now for low level keys, you might not appear as good, but the moment you play mid level, high level keys, I think you are going to end up being part of the best candidates. Now the rotation will likely change a little bit coming from 11.05. You might now be casting more Frostbolts in AoE. You might be moving away from Iceland spamming, because a lot of people complain Iceland spamming is so boring, yada yada yada. The devs heard about it and they're trying their best to like remove the Icelands mindlessly spamming in AoE, and now there might be an incentive for you to play around Frostbolt. But then again, rumors to be tested, etc. I still think you're gonna be the best candidates. You're pretty strong defensively, you have great utility, amazing mob control, and the damage profile is great. Next in line, Moonkin. Moonkin actually got small nerfs for Mythic Plus. Very small nerfs for Mythic Plus on Boomie. Well, I guess small depends how you look at him. But I think Boomie is still going to be an impressive choice for Mythic Plus. One of the best range options right now. Amazing AoE, uncapped damage. Single target, much better. Durability is an issue. Something that I've been talking for the past probably 1 year. Durability on Balanced Druid is an issue. Outside of Barskin, I mean, just Guardian, like for example, staying bear form is not enough. Because during bear form, you just don't do damage. So having either double charge of Barskin or anything else to like top them off, I guess renewal is not really part of this. Like you just need a plain and simple DR. Like Feral Druid has survival instincts. Like give them something similar to this, or maybe double stack of like Barskin. I don't know, something. Yeah, overall I think you're gonna end up being in the best candidates. Your damage is way too good for you to be dropping lower. Augmentation coming in the best candidates. I think you are dropping from top tier because although it appears on a lot of high keys, still people play Augmentation Evoker. I think the triple DPS outside of Aug is gonna be much faster but not safer. Aug makes things safer and it's still gonna be one of the best candidates for 1105, but I don't think you're gonna be as dominant as you were in early 1102 or Dragonflight, etc. Still a good choice, but not the best choice. Again, you're the only spec in the game that gives your whole team DRs and also more damage. You have a lot of mob control, knock-up, pushback, for example. A lot of ways to help your team, like Zephyrs, Poison Dispel, Disease Dispel, Bleed Dispel, Regular Dispel, Rescues on cooldown for the shield, etc. And several ways for you to get a DR. But I think on and on, yeah, I likely gonna end up being not picked up for low level keys while being very good for like mid and high level keys. Alright, a few more DPS picks left, so let's get through it. First but not least, first but not last, it's gonna be Arcane Mage followed by Fire Mage. I think both mages are gonna end up being in the top tier here. Following with Arcane, Arcane has actually gotten a, in my opinion, substantial buff for 1105. They're now gonna be better than before. They tried to remove the double dipping playstyle and reintroduce them in a form of a talent, which I don't think is gonna work as well as before, but at least it's a step in the right direction. Again, burst on demand damage is gonna be great. Don't worry about that one. It's still gonna remain strong. Good power damage as well, if in fact one of the best. Very competitive single target. And when I say very, I mean like one of the best so far. Mob control is great, just like any mage spec. And last but not least, remember, it's a mage spec. You are pretty much immortal. You can't die. You have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ways to live, like 6 defensive options. Like it's crazy. Similar to Fire Mage, I think everything that I said about Arcane, Fire has it too. Good prio when doing AoE, especially if you play Ignite build. Please don't play Flamestrike build. I think it might be even tankier than Arcane because you have a cheat bait in form of a Cauterize. I do think the output itself is gonna be slightly inferior to Arcane, depending on the key levels you're playing. Or in some keys could be even better, once again, depending on the key levels you're playing. So based on your damage profile, I still think you're gonna be part of the best candidates. And last but not least, the spec that I believe is gonna be the best in the best candidates, Ele Shaman. Ele Shaman has gotten a healthy amount of changes in 1105, which will make them, in my opinion, better. They're now gonna have one extra offensive cooldown, which is gonna be Ascendance, which pretty much gonna send the pack to Narnia. Like Ascendance got reworked, now works well with like Lighting build. DRE also got the rework, now works well with pretty much all builds. Unfortunately, not anymore fire specific. I still think following all the changes to Elemental, they will be better than level 02. Now, one thing though, they got hit defensively, so now you have less defensive option because Flash of Lightning got nerfed. But other than this, you will be doing well in any key level. High, low, mid, doesn't really matter. Single target is gonna be the area where I believe will struggle the most, but anything else outside of this is top tier. That is the only reason why I think you're gonna be here instead of top tier, is because of a single target. not as competitive as the classes placed above you. And talking about classes placed above you, it's time to get into the Ace Plus 1105 meta. I believe currently a lot of melees are stronger than ranges. As you can see, those three, I'll talk about them individually. But let's go on about tanks. Protection Warrior is, in my opinion, gonna enter 1105 as the best tank. Why? Very strong damage profile. Very tanky too. Now, utility is not as good, but remember what I told you guys early on. If melees end up being meta, Battle Shout will be an immense buff for them. Because 5% more attack power to like Frost Decay, Assa Rogue can enhance. Fuck yeah, dude. You know? Fuck yeah. Also, you do benefit quite well from Wind Fury coming from Resto Shaman, which I think this combo together is great. Resto Shaman itself, once again, amazing mob control. Honestly, I love playing with Shamis. Knock up, kick, stun, double stun, poison cleanse totem, the curse, AG of healing, incredible healing, good spot healing too. The only thing that I don't like about Resto Shaman is like they don't have like a strong external damage, you know, ability. I mean, Link is fine, but Link is not really something that can help you, or let's say enhance Shaman and dying, give you something. I mean, outside of like prior healing, I guess Earth Shield TR, fine. But Link is rather mediocre for like, you know, single target kind of DR. Well, it's kind of an amazing utility for like the group itself, but yeah. Also, you're permanently giving your whole team more HP, either 10 or 20%, depending on how you play or which talents you're playing. Again, Ancestor Viger is just a great option. So I think Resto Shaman is gonna stay top tier for now. If there's any changes, I'll let you guys know. Following the triple DPS, I mean, there's not much to say here. Assa Rogue got some changes itself, which I think is gonna take some powers away from them and shift them in other areas. I still think they're gonna remain one of the strongest AoE damage dealers in Mythic Plus. Very competitive proud damage too. Decent single target, good mob control. Silences got slight changes, but still gonna be relevant enough for them to be considered. And again, mob control, one of the best, good utility, great defensiveness. I mean, what else do you need? You know? And last but not least, enhance coming in here with Frost Decay. First enhance, in my opinion, will get turbo broken in 1105. Has getting quite a lot of changes for the upcoming patch, which all of them are gonna end up being positive. Now, one thing I don't like about enhance is like they have so many bugs currently on PTR that makes their damage a little bit inflated, which I think because of this they might end up being nerfed and not fixed. If they got nerfed and not fixed, they will likely end up getting fixed at some point, which will leave them in a state where they don't really get compensated for that. So I hope that they just change that, fix the bugs, so they can actually see the enhanced performance. But as the way it is right now, very strong single target, if not one of the best, if not the best already. Amazing utility, better AoE damage profile, and good frontal burst. If you're playing low count mobs, for example, between let's say 1 and 6 targets, enhanced is just the best. There's nobody better than them. Like, sustained damage from pack to pack is just nuts. Last but not least, Frost Decay. Frost Decay is getting a buff. I don't know why, but Frost Decay are going to be getting a 8% single target buff. I mean, around from what last time I spoke to Biceps Pump, like around 10% buff for like Mythic Plus, or maybe like 9% buff for Mythic Plus, which they were already the best DPS. So buffing them by like 9% makes no sense. Why is that? They just buffed Deathbringer. Like, they changed Deathbringer hero talents that just ultimately got them buffed. Make it make sense. They already do the best burst in the game, great single target too, good prior damage, very tanky, good mob control, and now they're gonna do even more damage. I think, boys, that is the end of the 1105 tier list. I hope I was helpful. I hope you guys learned something. Once again, it's rare to see triple DPS meta here, but currently this is one of the strongest setups. The only difference here could be, instead of Resto Shaman, you could play Disc Priest for the PI, Mind Sword, and Stamina. because you're already playing Warrior that buffs the Shaman, which Shaman then buffs the Warrior, DK and Assa Rogue, and it's just all connected together. And Frost Mage Frost DK already the best DPS. You're getting Wind Fury buff and also attack power. Crazy. Anyway, boys, thank you for watching. Peace out. This info will be put into the ice veins in the upcoming hours so you guys can see it. Peace out. Have a good one.